Hello and welcome to another episode of Cascadia Mountain Weather. My name's Kyle McCrone here with Wyatt Mullen. And last week we talked about a beautiful weekend, but kind of a nasty, crusty snowpack. And we gave the recommendation to a lot of people that snowshoes might be the better tool for the weekend. Unfortunately, Wyatt and I did not take our own advice, and we decided to go skiing. And here's a picture from our ski adventure in the Glacier Peak Wilderness. Uh, the snow was quite comical in certain places. Here we're skiing just a few inches of snow on a grassy trail. There's only snow on this because the trail is slightly flatter and holds the snow. So this was a south aspect around 5,000 feet, just completely nuked out, hardly any snow. Now, however, the next basin over was also a south face, but about 500 feet higher and seemed to have a little more concavity, probably fetching the wind better. And it had plenty good coverage. And despite our low expectations of ski quality, we actually found some decent spring-like snow. So it just goes to show that like micro differences in elevation, wind, how much wind it gets, and all that can just make a huge difference right now as we continue to try to work through this like low elevation, low tide snowpack. So this is a graphic showing our snow water equivalent. It's, kind of weighting and averaging different snowtail sites. Because it's been persistently dry, we're down to generally 50 to 60%, a little better on the east side and worse in the Olympics. This is filtering for only snowtail sites below 4,000 feet. And you can see that we're actually doing worse when you look at the low elevation. So there's very little snow on the west side below 4,500 feet, almost none at all. On the east side, it's a little bit better because we've had persistent easterly flow and fog kind of keeping the low elevations cooler on the east side. This shows like the estimated snow depth, but we just want to highlight that these sort of maps are estimates, and because of all the dry, sunny weather and inversions we've had recently, they don't fully capture the nuance. There might be certain north-facing areas that have more snow that just have been persistently stuck in the shade, or like cold valleys where the air sinks. But then steep southern faces have gotten a lot of sun recently. And so as we showed in that first picture, they maybe have been blown out and melted out. There's been a lot of glide avalanches on south aspects. But this can be like a starting point, but you got to realize that the snow conditions are kind of tricky to predict right now, and you just have to go in with an open mind.
Yeah, so another thing is that we're going to start doing on here is that we want to talk a little bit about like kind of nuances to forecasts that we might have missed, or just like reviewing what we looked at before. So previously, last week, I kind of mentioned in the Instagram post that like snow level was going to be pretty variable. Snow is going to maybe start like 1 to 3,000 feet. And honestly, like I think even I underestimated how little snow there was going to be at some of those upper elevations. I mean, at times like 4,500 to 5,000 feet, especially on those south and west facing slopes, there was basically no snow. And so also one thing that we wanted to highlight was what was occurring in the kind of the Snoqualmie Pass area that we didn't really discuss when we talked about it being a sunny, beautiful weather weekend last week. So what we had last week was we had the setup where it's pretty standard during the winter, honestly, where you have pretty strong high pressure. These lines are lines of isobars or current pressure. And we had higher pressure on the east side of the mountains than on the west side. And so you can see that more clearly right here, where you have kind of a high pressure right here and a low pressure here. And what happens is when you have high pressure, you have winds that go from the high pressure to the low pressure. But winds, especially with cold air, like to escape the easiest way possible. And what Snoqualmie Pass is it's the lowest pass through the Washington Cascades, excluding kind of the gorge down by the Columbia River. So what we saw is that we saw this persistent low clouds moving through the pass, because if we look at, and here's another photo of it, but if we look at the satellite from last week, we can see that there's persistent kind of fog, and we'll play this. There's persistent fog over on the east side that, and as the air accelerated through that gap, through the Snoqualmie Pass gap, cold air, denser air, so it makes its way over the pass, it would suck in a lot of the clouds and kind of other debris and bring it over the pass. And so that's sometimes why sunny everywhere else. So just kind of a micro terrain thing that's kind of interesting to check out.
It's interesting to note, if you looked at that video there, it looks like the upper level air is still moving from the west, right? But then the low level fog is kind of coming from the east. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So we tend to have kind of that same standard pattern where you have the storms coming from the west, coming in off the Pacific or the Southwest or whatever it is, still moving along with the jet stream. But if you look down at the lower elevations, it's much more driven by terrain features. And so you might have that high pressure one area, low pressure another, and really driving strong winds. Like up down near Crown Point, which is along the Columbia. And in that gap, they were measuring winds above 100 miles an hour pretty continuously last weekend. So really, really strong easterly winds. So yeah, so one thing to notice if you were outside yesterday, this is from last night, is that there's a change afoot, right? We've been pretty continuously dry. There was a couple showers that moved through earlier this week, but unfortunately the snow level was still pretty high. So it was rain at most locations. This is a lenticular cloud, which tends to suggest that change is coming. And so we have a storm moving in this morning, actually. What you're going to notice is that most of the precipitation for this storm is moving through right now, kind of Friday morning, should clear out through the from the lowlands by about 10 a.m. Although we are going to see a Puget Sound convergence zone set up. In the mountains, most of the snow from the system is going to be falling kind of through the afternoon today. You can see this Puget Sound convergence zone stretching from Seattle along I-90. You might get some pretty heavy snow rates there, maybe a couple inches, maybe a couple inches an hour. So just be aware of that if you're going out. We can look at the snow as well. So at first it's going to come in pretty warm. So right now it might even be raining at some of the upper elevations, but as the storm moves through, the storm is coming more from like the Gulf of Alaska. So it's going to be cooler, and snow levels are going to drop significantly lower than they've been recently. But you can see kind of the snow move in and start to hit the higher elevations and then drop down as the snow level drops and spread. This is 4 p.m. Friday. And then we get that strong Puget Sound convergence zone along I-90. And it's hard to say if it will be exactly along I-90, but it almost certainly will exist. And this shows, yeah, like 1 to 2 inches an hour, if not a little bit more.
You can really see from that convergence zone that this is like a northwest based storm, because the convergence is kind of along a northwest to southeast aspect. So that is like signaling how the winds are moving around, kind of coming in from the northwest corner of the Olympic Peninsula and like moving around the Olympics and converging there.
Exactly right. You can see kind of like that convergence ongoing. And if you have a more westerly storm, then you might have it more over US 2. If you had more like a southwesterly storm, it might be up near like Arlington, or up even sometimes it gets up to Skagit County. Here's kind of total snow by Saturday and into Sunday. Like it's gonna be decent, but it's not gonna be crazy. Probably 6 to 8 inches most areas. A couple of areas, especially in the convergence zone, might pick up a little bit more. That snow level is gonna be falling to about 1,500 or 2,000 feet. So the lower elevations aren't gonna pick up quite as much, but they'll get a couple inches as well. We'll probably make for some difficult travel today, and then tomorrow it's gonna clear out and it'll be a pretty nice day actually with that new snow. So if you're thinking about getting out tomorrow on Saturday, could be a great day. Today is also going to feature some decently strong winds. So up at the ski areas, most of which are still open, but they're struggling a bit with the low snow conditions. This morning, we've already seen gusts to about 40 miles an hour at some of them, and kind of in that 30 to 50 mile an hour range as you move through the day Friday. They're going to start kind of out of the south-southwest before it cools down, and then they're going to be a lot more like directly westerly. So something to check out. And then for the rest of the weekend, the wind should be pretty calm. Temperatures in that about 4,000 foot to 5,000 foot level. Today, they're going to be dropping from a snow level that was kind of, near 6,000 feet all the way down to kind of that 1,500 foot level. So temperatures today going to be in the mid 30s, but tomorrow and Sunday should be kind of in the low 30s around freezing. Lows will be pretty chilly. It'll be near freezing tomorrow morning in the lowlands and kind of low 20s at the upper elevations. You'll see the slight bump up in snow level occurring tomorrow evening, so Saturday evening, and then it will drop down again, although there's not going to be a lot of precipitation with that. So like in terms of Sunday, like we'll be seeing some clouds move in. So Saturday looks pretty clear. Sunday, we'll see some high clouds move in, and then there's a slight chance of showers going to be coming in right at the end of the day Sunday. So just be aware of that if you're out late on Sunday. And then here's just another glance at kind of that total snow through Sunday. Well, this is through Saturday, but kind of in that like 6 to 10 inches range. Especially better further north. Like this is not going to be a great time to go skiing down near Rainier where they're not going to pick up a ton of snow.
Yeah, so here we see the different like snow depths for the ski areas. The main thing to note is obviously most of them are pretty low, but Baker has lost more depth than most other places, same as Crystal, and that's due to them being on the west side of the crest and not getting that easterly flow. So Kwame Pass and Stevens Pass have actually lost very little bit of their snow depth, not that they had a lot to begin with. Now let's look at the...
It's pretty rare to see Snoqualmie have more snow than Baker, especially at this time of year. So that's kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're looking at the Northwest Avalanche Center. You can see today for Friday, higher danger up north, less where there's fresh snow. But let's click into the west-north forecast. So for Saturday, it's looking like declining a little bit. They're talking about, wind slabs, that kind of stuff. So more issues related to the fresh snow. With the forecast this weekend, I think it's going to be a pretty nice weekend to get out, especially on Saturday. You're probably not going to find bottomless snow. You'll probably be finding the crust in a lot of places, even areas that got more fresh snow. But the snow is falling right side up, meaning it's declining temperature throughout the storm. There is a good amount of wind. So I think, you just kind of got to go out cautiously with an open mind. But especially with the clearing weather later in the day, Saturday could be a nice day to be out and enjoy some decent skiing. Definitely the best shot of snow we've had in a while.
Long term, it looks like we are going to be still stuck in this El Nino pattern. We have, haven't seen a lot of snow, and it looks like that's going to continue. We are moving into a wetter pattern, at least compared to what we've seen recently. So some storms coming through next week, but it does look like we might get an atmospheric river around Christmas, so pretty high snow levels. So maybe it will turn around in January, but for the moment, don't plan on going on too many ski vacations, I guess.
So we're excited here at Cascadia Mountain Weather to introduce our Patreon. And the Patreon is going to be a method for us to engage with our members, get some financial support, and show off some premium content that we can offer to help improve people's experience in the mountains and help them make better decisions, better planning. One thing we'd like to highlight is we actually have a list of useful weather links, and this is free and available for everyone. So we'll include the Patreon link in our notes. You can actually go to cascadiamountainweather.com and it will go to our Patreon website. And here we've shared all the different common weather resources that we use with links to them. So you can go to this. It's totally free and accessible to everyone. We also are putting out weekly recreation recommendations. So around the same time we put out the video, we put out a recommendation that has a summary and more specific details. And it goes over details that we might not go over in the video, trying to capture a little more about that nuance, what zones to look at, what type of terrain to look at, more specific timing with the weather, and looking at a variety of different activities. So if you join our premium tier for $5, just $5 a month, there's also a 7-day free trial. You can get a weekly recreation recommendation ending up in your email inbox each week. So you don't even have to watch the video if you don't have time. You can just see it and kind of get the beta on what you should be looking at for the weekend and the upcoming week. So we hope you check this out. We'll put our link in the show notes. It's cascadiamountainweather.com. And if you like this YouTube video, please subscribe, and we'll see you next week. We hope you have a great Christmas and happy holidays.